Intuition. How many of you are listening and following the guidance of your intuition? For those of you that don't know me, I am Gloria Coppola. I am an intuitive empath and a best-selling author and a story and life coach. I want to talk to you about intuition today because a lot of us are intuitive, but as you know, we don't always listen to it. We doubt it. And my main character, Lexi, in the upcoming book of Too Many Goodbyes, sometimes she listens and sometimes she doesn't. So I'm wondering how many of you actually kind of have guides. You get feelings about certain things and messages. Maybe sometimes you think you're going crazy because you're like hearing a voice in your head. Well, Lexi heard voices. She did. She had a connection with her grandmother, and her grandmother was one of her guides. And she looked to her grandmother to guide her in life. And sometimes grandma didn't always show up. Why? Because we have to trust our own intuition. But one of the things that grandma was always telling her, do not overlook the signs. Are you overlooking signs like there's synchronicities in your life and you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. It's happening again. And then it happens a second time and a third time. And then something happens and you're like, oh my God, I should have paid attention to the signs. Well, that's what happened to Lexi in one of the stories in the book. But along the way, she's getting smarter as she develops her intuition and her confidence to not overlook signs and to trust her own gut feelings and to listen to her guidance. So she went on a little excursion at one point to North Carolina, and she decided to get away for a few months. She had graduated high school. She was going through a lot of things, with her family, her father particularly. She was debating whether or not she should go to college. So this is the chapter I'm going to talk about today. So I'm giving you guys a little insight into her life, into how she uses her gifts, and how she encourages you to pay attention to these gifts. Good morning. Come on and say hello. So she decides to take off for 3 months. I can't tell you all the reasons why she takes off for 3 months, and some of it's kept secret in here anyway for a while. But she decides to take off and she leaves to go to the mountains in North Carolina. And she's from New York originally. And she gets her dad to finally agree with her that she needs this time to find herself. So as she gets out there and she rents this little cabin and she's kind of scared and frightened and she hears all weird noises and she jumps, right? You get that way sometimes in life, even when you trust your intuition, right? But there's a note left on the door and it's a welcome note to her and it's signed Rosa. Well, Rosa was her grandmother's name. So Lexi's like, oh my gosh, here's another quote unquote coincidence. I think not. So she looks up and she says, Grandma, you're here. I know you're here because this is not just a coincidence. So Grandma had a way of showing up like that in her life. And that intuition and that connection became stronger with the spirit world. Now, one day, not Lomi, Lexi, Lomi's my dog. Lexi decides to take a hike and she's overlooking the signs. So, do you ever drive on a highway and it tells you overlook here, right? But you don't pull off and you don't think nothing of it. Well, this happened to Lexi. She's driving and there's an overlook and she says, "Oh, I don't need to stop right now. I need to get to this cabin, right?" So she knows that there's symbolism in the words overlook, but she's not paying attention to it all the time. Okay. But it's always in her face. It's constantly in her face. So, how many times have you had things show up constantly in your face that are trying to remind you to trust guidance? Well, I get it every day. I don't know about you. So, anyway, okay, so she gets to North Carolina. She gets the letter that's signed by someone named Rosa, who's also the name of her grandmother. She goes into the cabin and she notices something on the table that's similar to something her grandmother gave her. So here's another sign, like the similarities of things that show up in your life. Do you pay attention to that? Well, Lexi's learning more and more as she matures, what she really needs to pay attention to. And she's got her little diary. She has tons of these diaries and she writes her little messages in there. Whoops, sorry about that. And she even wrote a little note in there to the diary about, the reasons that she's there and what is she going to discover. And she knows that the mountains, this particular area have the Cherokee Indians. And so she knows that they're very sacred. And she's wondering what is going to happen? Who am I going to meet? And she says, dare I declare divine alignment? Is it synchronicity? So see, she knows this, but she doesn't know yet what is going to happen and how it's going to unfold. So anyway, on this journey, and again, this is just little tidbits on this journey in North Carolina, she decides to go out one morning for her hike. And there's signs like slippery when wet, right? Caution. And she's thinking, it's a beautiful day. I don't have to worry about slipping. Nothing's wet in here, right? Oh, what's going on with my voice? Allergies today, I guess. And so she just keeps going, right? And she's looking up and she's looking for birds and she hears a whistle and then she's trying to find the bird, right? And it disappears. And she wonders, did she really hear it? Or is it leading her somewhere else? Just like your signs, where do they lead you out there? So she is here to teach you to pay attention to signs, synchronicities, trust your intuition, and do not overlook the signs. Like maybe you're listening to this today and you're going, oh my God, this happens to me all the time. This is a sign. Well, yeah, it's a sign that I've come to you to tell you to really pay attention, because where does it lead you? So anyway, she continues down the trail and she's totally into the environment and everything and fascinated with it. And she hears different sounds and stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a fast and furious storm that comes through. Now, remember, the sign before she saw was a caution sign and a slippery one wet. But she's like, I don't need to pay attention to this. It's a beautiful day. Well, not once this storm rolled in really fast, and all of a sudden a bolt of lightning hits a tree in front of her. Now, if that's not a sign, what is, right? So that's like, oops, wake up call. But anyway, she keeps walking and she's like, oh my gosh, do I go back? Where do I go? Do I find some place to hang out in? So what would you have done? Right? If you have these signs about cautious and slippery when wet. Well, at this point in time, hey there, at this point in time, she didn't really pay attention to that, right? She figured, I can do this. It's a great day. Well, the downpour came so quickly and the flash floods that came through knocked her down, right? They knocked her down. She hit her head. She went unconscious. And what happens next? Well, you'll have to read the book. But anyway, no, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little hint. She meets somebody, okay? Somebody protects her. Somebody brings her into like a sheltered area. And this person is trying to remind her to not overlook signs and is explaining to her why they connected. And she's kind of thinking, am I just dreaming? And maybe she is. I don't know. What do you think? But the moral of this piece of it is he is going to tell her that this will probably be the most important situation in her life if she pays attention, that she can bring through life and realize that's intuition, synchronicities, your gut feelings, pay attention. Well, she doesn't always, just like us. We're human. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Sometimes they come in stronger and we believe them. And sometimes we just say, not today, right? Is that you? So anyway, at the end of the story, she continues to move forward because it stops raining. That's not the end. I'm sorry, the middle. And she wants to wash off. She's all full of mud. And this person that she met tells her where to go, but to be careful that she doesn't slip. And she's like, well, the sun's back out and everything's dry, so I'm not going to slip. I just want to wash the mud off. So how many times do you get messages before you get hit over the head? More than once, right? You're like, I got this. So anyway, she walks very carefully down and she hears a little stream where he told her to go. And she goes down there and it's beautiful again. The sun is out. And that particular area is reminding her of a place that she used to sit and write her poetry when she was a teenager. So she kind of went off, right? She went off into that world while she's just soaking her feet. Well, all of a sudden, again, there's this gush of water that comes down and scoops her up. And at first she's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going for a swim, right? So, but it gets stronger and fiercer and it starts to like whip her around and she sees a big rock and she's like, oh God, I don't need to get hit on my head again. All right. And then it calms down and she's like, okay. So it's kind of like life, right? But is she paying attention to what's coming up next? No, she's not. So you'll have to read the book and go to the North Carolina chapter to find out what happens when she overlooks the signs? Does it bring her to somebody or two people or more, or a connection that actually shifts her level of awareness so that the rest of her journeys, maybe she's listening a little better? So, anyway, I hope you enjoy these little tidbits. Remember, on August 8th, please mark your calendar. There's going to be a real, authentic, uncut interview in the mind of the author right here on Facebook, okay? Live at 7 p.m. on the Lionsgate. Oh gosh, powerful day, right? And if you're not on my email list, please make sure you get there, because I am going to be sending out information very soon about different things that you're going to want to know about. So I'm going to put the website up here where you can go and get my newsletter. All right. There's going to be a secret sale. So I can't tell you when, but pay attention. Okay. The book is up for pre-order right now on Barnes and Noble for those of you that like to grab things first and fast. All right. And we're going to have Lexi tips. If you're not on my author page, I'm going to put that up here too. I have a fan page, gloriacoppola.com, not .com, comma. Okay. Go over to my fan page because there's Lexi trivia. Lexi's giving lots of hints and tips and clues. And there's going to be a Lexi trivia game where you can win prizes real soon. Okay. So thanks for stopping by, and got questions, things you want to know about Lexi or in the mind of an author, post them down below so that on August 8th, we address your question. Thank you.